Hello and welcome to our Friday webinar. We are on with Pamela Clark. Welcome back, Pamela. Hey, and we are talking about, gosh, it's such a timely topic, hormones. And this is me a Q&A as well. So if you have any questions, I know people will, make sure you use the Q&A button and not the chat feature so that we can get the question captured. And you do have a presentation. And I just want to revisit. So last Friday we were on with Jorg Meyer, and it was called AP therapy. It's the honey. It was such a enlightening webinar. So now I've been doing my tablespoon of honey every day after that. So just curious if anyone else that's with us today was last Friday, because that was like our marching orders, was to go out and get some honey and start taking it. If anyone else got some honey, because it inspired me to get some. And I mean, like the good honey, the better honey than.
You're talking about the Manuka honey?
Well, actually, it's that honey. Yes, yes. Yeah. You probably know by your honey. But yeah, it was very it's just a new. I mean, I always even more appreciation for bees and what they do. I hope everyone had that takeaway as well, and how they can help us and our birds. So yeah, it was fascinating. And just now, I'm just curious where everyone's coming in from today. So we were just talking about, I'm in California. It's pretty sunny. You're a little snow in Sledge where you're at, Pamela, right?
Yes, it is. It's snowing right now. Big fat flakes.
Big fat flakes. All right. We got New York, we got Ohio, Phoenix. It's funny. Phoenix, it's like rain. Yay, I feel you, because it's you gotta celebrate when the rain comes, not great.
Yes.
And we got Central Arkansas. Okay. So everyone just let us know. Oh, this is great. Getting like weather updates from across the country. Love it. We've got Northern Canada, Cleveland, Tennessee, New Hampshire. Oh man, Central Arkansas. Okay. So just imagine the seasons that are going on in this webinar alone, and we're going to talk about hormones that are usually associated with spring. So that could be different times in different areas. Maybe I'll let you discuss that,
I'm
Pamela.
going to address that. I
All
am.
right. So I'll let you take over.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's see. We got everyone coming in. This is awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. We're up to 54. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to go ahead and start or wait?
Well, let's give it one more. How about one more as you cue that up? Let's see.
Okay.
We got Washington, we got Ohio, Massachusetts. Yeah. Everyone's of course glad to see you again, because we always learn so much from you. And yeah, so just a reminder, if you have a question and you're just joining us, please use the Q&A button, and we'll get to the questions in a little bit. And that's it. Yeah, I think we should start this, because I have a feeling we're gonna have a lot of questions. And good
Okay.
ones. Yeah, not that they're not bad. They're always good, but really good ones with hormones.
Great. All right. On the topic of bees, don't clean up your garden waste until several weeks after the last frost date, because they're in the ground. And if you're pulling out all the dead plants and getting the garden ready, you'll kill them. Okay. That's my word on bees for the day. And now I'm going to move on to the topic of the production of reproductive hormones in parrots. And this is such a prevalent problem that I think it's earned the title, the Parrot Passion Pit. So I have kept my presentation short because this is intended to be a Q&A. But last year, or maybe it was the year before, but I think it was last year, I did do a full presentation for Lafeber on hormone production. And so if it's still there, anybody who's interested in seeing a full hour can go and look that up. But you're right, Laura. The first thing I wanted to point out is this is not just a problem that occurs in the spring. So why do we talk about it? Why does everybody think that it's a worse problem in the spring? It's because many years ago, veterinarians started noticing that their clients were complaining about birds, specifically Amazons, that were so commonly kept at the time. And they would come in and complain to their vet that the bird was noisier or more aggressive. And the conclusion that seemed to make the most sense at the time, to which they subscribed, was that parrots become more hormonal in the spring. However, this is not true. They're generally speaking, the New World parrots, those who come from Central and South America, Amazons, macaws, Quakers, Pioneers, and those species, they're going to become more hormonal in the spring, generally speaking. However, as we will learn, it is not necessarily light that is driving that change. It really is more warmth, or a combination of warmth and light. But then the old world birds, like African greys and cockatoos, they become more willing to reproduce in the fall. And so this current prevailing wisdom that we should give all birds, 12 hours of darkness every night, is not true. It's not accurate. Wait for my next blog post. It will all become clear. But no, if you give extra hours of darkness to a poicephalus, you're just going to make the problem worse. So I have been a pioneer in identifying and describing this syndrome because inadvertently I have done a bit of a study. Because for 30 years, I've used a particular form for my consultations. And I guess I was smart enough in the very beginning to put questions on it related to things that could impact hormone production. So I've been able to come to some very important and, I believe, accurate conclusions about what the triggers for this problem really are. So today, that's what we're going to talk about, just about the triggers, not the solutions, because I imagine that you'll be asking about those during the Q&A. So I think one of the big problems is just in the way that we think about our birds. And we need to change the way we think about our birds because number one, they're not domesticated, but number two, they're not neutered. And we are just not used to living with an animal that is sexually mature, sexually aware, and wanting to take action on instincts that support reproduction. So the reality is that any adult parrot, their top priority is not to play games with you. It's not to take a shower with you. It's not to sit on your shoulder. Any parrot's top priority is to access the activities or foods that they feel somehow on an instinctive level will support reproduction. And there are very specific triggers that we can avoid providing, which will make life tremendously easier for all of us. So it's really our job to know what those triggers are and to avoid them and to stop fooling ourselves. These birds are wildish. They are unpredictable. They are not the same as mammals. And we need to start thinking of them with just a little more respect and a lot more boundaries in that regard. So here's what birds do in captivity when they're feeling that urge once they get to be adults. They want to form a pair bond. They will crawl over and try and get on your lap. They will want to be on your shoulder. They seek interactions in the intimate zone. Here is an illustration in the photo of the intimate zone. The problem with that is parrots in the wild, they don't ever get into the intimate zone unless they are dead serious about reproduction. So when you allow a bird to have this, you can't just think about making them happy. The things that make birds happy are the things that lead to breeding and increased hormone production. So you also can't think in terms of just making your bird happy. They are not mammals. If you want to make someone happy, get a dog, get treats, take them for a walk, and pet them. So they will seek out these types of interactions, and it's up to us to teach them that they can be right there with us in very close proximity, but not that close. They also engage in cavity seeking. We'll look at that a little bit more in a second. They prefer foods that are high in metabolizable energy, and they consider all of these as resources. I'm dealing with a lovely young man right now who has an Indian ring-necked parakeet. And because he is a young man and he lives with his mom, his bird was living in his room, his bedroom. And she developed hormone production that was so high that she just started launching flighted attacks constantly at him, even though she was pair bonded to him. You know, literally, these birds just get out of their minds. So before he contracted my services, the way that he was managing her was that he would let her out of the cage between 3 and 5 p.m. and he couldn't stay in the room because she would attack him and hurt him. So he just sat on the floor outside his bedroom with the door partially open so he could make sure that she wasn't getting into any trouble. And that was her enrichment for the day. Today, the cage is in the living area. She still has pretty darn high hormone production. She's one for the books, but the flighted attacks are over. You know, so you can make the problem worse or you can make it better, and it's your choice. But that was an example of how, so they engage in cavity seeking. A whole room will do, you know. If you give a bird a room of their own and you let them out of their cage during the day while you're at work, you're gonna have such problems. Just wait and see. All righty. So I do want to make a point that increased hormone production does not cause behavior problems. It does not cause aggression. It does not cause screaming. It just makes them more likely because a heightened state of arousal follows cavity seeking and any intimate interactions. And here's an example. How many times have you heard somebody talk about how the bird was just sitting on their shoulder and everything was wonderful, and then all of a sudden the bird turned and bit him on the neck? It's not an uncommon example to be offered on social media. So yes, increased hormone production sets the stage for behavior problems to evolve. So pair-bonded parrots often scream for proximity. They can't stand being away from that pair-bonded person. They also engage in resource guarding. So that woman is that bird's resource. And if somebody else comes into the house, like maybe her husband, that man is likely to get attacked, or her wife, or whoever else it is, who may be close to her, is going to be seen as an, can't think of the word, intruder. Thank you. Okay, so also parrots who begin feather damaging on their legs and under their wings, you can take it to the bank that that is because of increased hormone production. And eventually the parrot runs the whole house, and the ringneck is a good example. You know, everyone's talking, everyone's conversation, everything they did was all about this parrot and how horrible she was making their lives. So the triggers specifically for increased hormone production are the existence of a pair bond. And remember, that gets built by having a bird sit on your shoulder or your lap, or, you know, doing a lot of cuddling, engaging in activities in the intimate zone, being able to cavity seek, eat foods that are high in metabolizable energy, and then warmer temperatures as well. So what about rainfall and humidity? Some people say that humidity impacts hormones. Well, only if the bird comes from a very arid spot in the world. So a good example are budgies and cockatiels. They come from the savanna in Australia, and they breed when the rainfalls come and create high foodstuffs in the environment that are high in metabolizable energy. And so breeding is very closely related there to humidity, not day length. Budgies are not impacted by day length at all. And I don't think cockatiels are either. So our focus on day length has been simplistic and harmful and very old school. So if you have a very hormonal budgie or cockatiel, you can get a dehumidifier. Now, what about day length? It really honestly has the least impact of all. I've already talked about how there is a change that you can see as the days start going, getting longer. And for those of us who say live with grays, you can see a change as the days get shorter also. However, there are other things happening in the environment. It gets warmer in the spring. And warmth has a much greater impact on a bird's ability to breed because warmth is necessary to the survival of chicks. And in the wintertime, the same thing happens. We have the birds indoors, and all of a sudden we're turning on our heat, and it is a different quality heat. Some people say that you shouldn't give birds nesting materials to chew. That's just insanity. You have to give birds stuff to chew. Okay, so my bird makes this big nest in the corner of the cage, piles all this stuff up there. What do? Clean it out once a day and then give him more. Let him be busy. The other triggers are so much more potent, more powerful than having some stuff in the bottom of the cage. So parrots will form a pair bond, more than one pair bond. This is very redundant, isn't it? Sorry, I did this late at night. Okay, cavity seeking. This takes a myriad of forms, and that's the point I want to make. Please do not give your birds cardboard boxes to play in. Just don't. I know it's easy enrichment, it's fast, but just don't. It's harmful to them. Now, look at this photograph right here of, okay, we got grass, meadow, actually. This is a sweatshirt. This is a cockatoo's butt. And this is how powerful the urge to cavity seek is. This is a bird who free flies. He could be out flying around and, or chewing off the tree branches, playing in the manure pile. He could be doing anything. What is he doing? He has his stupid head stuck under a sweatshirt because somehow he thinks that's going to get him closer to breeding and rearing young. So you can see there isn't a lot of logic that goes on with these birds. This is pure instinct. So also, you might question whether you really want to give your bird a toy like this. This is another example of cavity seeking. It doesn't have to be a cavity. It can be a corner. Here's another example here of, of the bird on the tennis shoes. Sometimes the combination of chewing and looking into a dark place is enough to stimulate a bird. And then here is a picture from my own life on the lower left. I was busy in the office and my closet door was open, and that looked like a good little place to hang out. So you have to be constantly vigilant and suspicious about what your bird is doing when he is not being supervised. So you must not let him get into closets, drawers, shelves, or bookcases. The tops of refrigerators are classic places for birds to cavity seek. Going under clothing or covers, crawling down your shirt, just digging in a corner on the floor, digging in the pillows of the couch, jumping into the washing machine, which I observed a bird do once, just perching near a dark spot, crawling under the furniture, playing in the cage tray. If you're an African gray, hanging out in the bathroom, chewing into walls, playing inside of cardboard boxes, sleeping huts for you with the little green sheet conures. You know, I know you have all kinds of cute names in your groups for this, where the bird just kind of sleeps in your hand. Don't you be doing that. I know it's cute, but it's not good. All right, now let's talk about foods high in metabolizable energy. This is another area where we have really missed the boat when it comes to being able to think in on any kind of uh, productive way about diet for parrots, because we love to think in terms, you know, black and white terms, right? Pellets are bad, fresh is better, you know. I want to bring something up right here in the middle of this. There are veterinarians who are saying that you cannot feed nutria and ava cakes because they have seeds in them. So let's get this straight right now. Every time I hear this, the top of my head wants to explode. Okay, we need to look at diet in terms of metabolizable energy, and that is measured in terms of kilocalories per kilogram. Okay, so we know the foods that are high in fats and carbohydrates, generally nuts, seeds, fruit and dried fruit, breads, anything starchy, and sugar. Those are all going to set your bird off and increase hormone production. But look at pellets that have high levels also. Tops is 3,800 kilocalories per kilogram. That has the highest metabolizable energy of any pellet on the market. You want your bird to be hormonal? Feed them tops. Harrison's high potency also is high, but I feed Harrison's high potency to my birds, and then I lower the metabolizable energy of the diet by also feeding chops and nutriberries and ava cakes, which are low in metabolizable energy because they are formulated foods. So this is what you have to look at, you know, and Zupreme sugar is the fifth ingredient. Even human beings are not supposed to eat foods that contain sugar as one of the first 5 ingredients. So diet in parrots is much more complex in terms of how do we feed our birds in a way that increases their quality of life and meets their nutritional needs, but keeps their overall energy level of what they eat low. It's an art and a science. Okay, so day length and temperature, I already said, trigger increased hormone production. And so it was really Dr. Amy Zhao, one of my mentees and I, who figured out this heat piece. And once we did, I started asking clients on my form, my intake form, what temperature do you keep your home? There are a whole lot of folks out there who are keeping their homes intentionally at 76 degrees because they think that parrots need warmer temps, or they're providing warmer temperatures at night to help the birds out. Do not do this. Parrots thermoregulate. It's not necessary to provide supplemental heat at all. 68 degrees, that's where you want a parrot to live at. That's what I've always kept my home at, and my birds just do fabulously well. All right, so in summary, we live with sexually aware parrots, so we must behave responsibly. We've got to limit interactions in the intimate zone, hands off mostly. Carry your bird from perch to perch, you know, but don't be all touchy-feely. They don't like being touched. And then instead train them, prevent cavity seeking, feed a lower energy diet, and save high energy foods only for training, and keep the temperature of your home low. And if you're having any problems, come and see me because I can fix them. Ta-da, I'm done.
Well, that was great. Let's see.
Thank
We
you.
do have some questions. And as we wait for the first one, I was going to ask you, I mean, so even if you have a cardboard box that the bird can't like get in, you mentioned just them being near it and being able to like look into it and maybe put their head in it is also stimulating, correct? Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, the parrot's going to give you tips about whether or not he's relating to it that way. If he sits by it a whole lot,
Mhm.
that is a tip, you know, that he regards it as some kind of resource because he's staying there quite a bit. Yeah.
Okay. And then what about I know like parrotlets, lovebirds, some, in the hair, like they
Mm,
like that's
mm-mm.
probably that's kind of like nesting material, I'm gonna guess.
You have to keep them off the body.
Yeah.
If you follow that guideline, they can't get in your hair.
Okay, good. Yes, good point. Okay, first question is, do the hours of daylight affect the breeding age of conures? So the hours of daylight affect breeding age of conures. So can that
The
dictate?
breeding age?
Yeah, maybe like dictate when they might start breeding, I'm guessing.
No, no,
Okay.
not at all. No, it is age that you know, because birds go through a process of becoming sexually mature. And so depending upon what type of conure it is, you know, a little green cheek's going to be sexually mature at the age of a year. Um, sun conure or gende would probably start the process at 9 to 12 months and finish it at 18 to 24 months.
Okay. Okay. Someone has heard that you share a topic. Let's see. I've heard you share about Tops Prior is the only cold press organic non-sugar pellet. Can you please share the cost benefit? It's the only cold pressed organic non-sugar pellet, I guess, Tops. So they wanted you to.
Well, Harrison's doesn't have sugar in it. Lafeber doesn't have sugar in it. Granted, they're not cold pressed, but you can't have everything. You know, I wouldn't feed a high calorie pellet just because it was cold pressed, because also, you know, Tops doesn't add any additional vitamins or minerals. So after a while, eating that pellet, depending upon the extent to which the parrot depended upon it, it could result in nutritional deficiencies.
Okay. Okay. So someone has a 2-year-old, let's see, 2-year-old budgies have been in heat since October, and they've been trying to identify the triggers. The vet just said, gave just them both on is it Lupron or Lutron shots. There's everything else that's going on, but no eggs. What else can they do?
Okay. Well, Lupron is not going to help unless you reduce all of the triggers that cause hormone production. So if the budgies have a tendency to hang out on your shoulders, then we should teach them instead to stay on their perches. I've got a couple of budgies, and it's so fun to provide habitats for them and then just reward them for staying there on those habitats rather than being on you. You know, budgies are so busy anyway. They're easy to uh, teach to stay off of you. And then if they are going into any areas where it's clear that they might be cavity seeking. Like my two just started it. So they were in a corner in the bedroom, so I had to clean that out. So there wasn't anything in the corner anymore. So it's that part is a matter of watching their behavior and making sure that they can't get in any little places. In my bedroom, I have blinds, and I notice they're lying in between the blinds. They get in between there. And I can't decide if that's cavity seeking or not, but I like to err on the side of being careful. So my next move, as soon as I get around to it, is to just raise the blinds all the way up. Spring's coming anyway, and then they won't have that opportunity. And then as far as diet goes, if they are eating a seed mix, so the only pellet, I apologize, Laura, but the only pellet that budgies should eat is rowdy bush because of the calcium content. For a long time, it was said that budgies and cockatiels should still have some seed. Well, the only reason that they were saying that is because they were finding that budgies and cockatiels who ate only pellets developed mineralization in the kidneys. However, it is not the protein in the pellets that cause that mineralization. It's the calcium level. And pellet manufacturers need to reformulate their foods and pay very close attention to the calcium content because budgies they can't eat a diet that is any more than 0.4% calcium. Harrison's is more than that, and most other pellets are. So, and then they do very well. I see that we just had a question about what is NutriBird. I'm talking about Lafeber. So the company that sponsors these wonderful webinars, they make two food products. Well, they make a lot of food products, but the two that budgies especially thrive on are the NutriBerries and the Ava Cakes. Ava Cakes are 50% pellets. You can tell that to your vet who thinks you shouldn't feed them. Moreover, yes, they do have some seeds in them, but you can't just, adopt the simplistic thinking your whole life. Seeds are bad. This is good. These seeds have been treated in such a way that they do not have the detrimental effects that seeds in a seed mix do. So if you have a budgie who's eating a seed mix, that would be a big piece. Get the budgie off the seed mix, eating Nutriberry, I'm sorry, Rowdy Bush crumbles and Nutriberries and Ava cakes for that size bird. But before you attempt that diet transition, you should work with a professional, either me or I've already recommended Dr. Amy Zhao. You can find her at thebudgieacademy.com.
Budgieacademy.com. I love that there's a Budgie Academy, first of all. Okay.
Yeah.
So a question about what are high metabolized foods? Like, can you give some examples, some names of high metabolized foods too?
You mean foods that have high metabolizable energy? Is this what
I'm
we're
assuming,
talking?
yeah.
Okay. Well, yes, nuts and seeds. So anything that has high fat or high carbs is going to have high metabolizable energy. So for instance, I was just talking with Amy the other day about the problem of chop. Chop is always a problem. We're trying to make it better, right? And so birds don't like wet chop. Everybody has pretty much figured that out. So to make sure it's not wet, we add stuff to it. And largely, one of the main things we add to it are grains. Well, grains are high in metabolizable energy. For anybody who wants to research this, the USDA has charts up there. You can go and look up the metabolizable energy of any food you want to. So what we're working on is this, this is Amy's idea, using tofu and vegetables in chop rather than grains. Yeah, I know all the phytoestrogen people are going to start screaming at me, but parrots are not bothered by phytoestrogens. You don't have to worry about that. So yeah, if you start out with really dry, super firm tofu and press all the liquid out of it and then mix it in with your veggies, it absorbs moisture. Also, Yeah, I feed tofu also. My birds love it. And if you have budgies and you're trying to train them and keeping the fat content low, as a reinforcer, you can use either tofu or egg whites. That also came from Amy. Um, and you can, and so what I'm experimenting with, I'm sorry, this is a bit of a digression, but one of the things I'm experimenting with is using my food dehydrator to dehydrate the very freshest vegetables when I find them. And then when I make chop, I can use the dehydrated vegetables and mix them in with the fresh vegetables, and it will absorb all the liquid and I won't have to put grains in.
Ah, how do you prepare the tofu? Do you, I mean, it sounds like a good meal you could share with your bird. How do you make the tofu, or how do you prepare it? You just,
You slit a knife around the outside of the package
oh,
and dump it out on some paper towels and press it with more paper towels and crumble it into your chop.
that's it. I mean, that's okay. I know people, there's so many different ways to prepare tofu. I wasn't sure if you were, that's okay.
Yeah, like she says, you can crumble it.
Great. That's
Mhm.
okay. Question about an African gray only gets NutriBird plus fruit and vegetables and only inside their cage. Is that sufficient? And they also ask, if you're not familiar with NutriBird, just Googled it and it is a pelleted, oh, it's a pelleted diet. So it has like, are you familiar with
I think
NutriBird?
it's an extruded pellet. I'm
Yes.
sort of familiar with it. Well, why would you feed that rather than, say, Harrison's Lafeber or Rowdy Bush?
Okay. Are you so there if it's like with just that fruit and vegetables. So if you have
A
a
pellet of
pellet,
fruit and vegetables. Well, it depends on the pellet, doesn't it now?
that's the
You
key.
know,
Okay.
yeah, so Zupreme, let's look at Zupreme. It's an extruded pellet, right? Very hard. No. So if you look on the back of the bag of Zupreme, it says that a bird the size of an African gray has to eat a half a cup a day.
Oh,
I don't know any birds that are going to eat half a cup of Zupreme a day. And so then the question arises, if they don't, does that mean they're not getting a full complement of vitamins and minerals? I did see the comment that NutriBird is sold in other countries. I had that in the back of my mind that maybe that was the case. So, if you're limited in terms of the pellets you can get, then you have to feed what you can get. But I would probably include a lot of variety. That word fruits and vegetables, that has a lot of, very broad definitions. I know people who pour frozen mixed vegetables out of a bag and call that fruits and vegetables. So if you're gonna, I don't know, I just think that variety is always the best option. That's what I think.
okay. So question about a very hormonal male 11-month-old cockatiel. He has flying aggression as well. So they moved and reorganized his cage, and he's been in the cage more. They've trimmed his wing feathers, but he's still aggressive. They want to know what else they can do. They want to make sure he's getting enough exercise because he's not getting out of the cage as much. And they also want to know how long will it take to notice a difference? So a lot going on with this aggressive young male cockatiel.
Trimming wing feathers does nothing to occur to solve aggression. And if someone gave you that advice, shame on them. We can't be removing the ability to move around at will from another animal to suit our own needs or for our own convenience. That has to stop. I know there are veterinarians that are still recommending this, and so that's why I'm being so strong about this right now. Flighted attacks are born of increased hormone production. Any bird who's launching flighted attacks, the sole reason is increased hormone production. That means that it's not the bird being bad, it's the people being bad. You're giving the bird all the wrong things, and it's not his fault that he's flying and attacking you. So you get him off your shoulder. You teach him to station. Do a consultation with me. I would be happy to help you, because you're not going to see a difference until you start doing things differently. That's the thing. You get him off your shoulder. You solve all the cavity seeking. Stop that. Get him on a lower calorie diet. And then there are many other things that we do in a case like this also. We start to train the bird, not just to stay on his own perches rather than on us, but to play with toys. Usually hormonal birds, they've stopped interacting with enrichment. So once you get them off the shoulder, you've got to help them again to do that. So that's the solution for aggression, because birds can bite even with clipped wings, and that's what he's going to do. And keeping him in the cage longer isn't going to do any good either. It's just going to make him more frustrated and angry and likely to bite when he gets out.
Okay. Okay.
And there is no way to give exercise to a bird with clipped wings, so that's a done deal. Hopefully he'll molt out soon and he can start flying again.
Okay. And since we're talking about cockatiels, I just associate them with like, are mirrors okay? Are they not okay when they're, because I know that there's a lot of mirror toys for smaller birds, and I
Yeah.
just, what's your take on that?
Mirrors are just fine for any bird. Decades ago, like maybe 40 years ago, the information was printed that you shouldn't because back then, the only birds that people kept were budgies.
Hmm.
We didn't have larger birds in, our homes at that point in time. And so the information that was printed was that if you shouldn't give a budgie a mirror, because then he won't form a bond with you. And ever since then, mirrors have been labeled as bad, but they're not bad. It's just
Right.
another form of enrichment, like you can, if you want to have some fun, put your phone on, like you're going to take a picture and turn it around so your bird can see himself.
Oh yeah, those make great videos too if you hit record.
Yes, it's really cute, really fun. So
Okay, all right. We have okay, so question about an Indian ringneck. So Indian ringneck, let's see, what they want to know, what behaviors indicate hormonal changes? Indian ringneck has been screaming more and more loudly the last few months, and started kind of growling when he doesn't get their attention in the form of scratches. He just turned 1, and he's also been biting lately. So he stopped this last year shortly after he arrived. Is this a hormonal effect? So is this Indian ringneck showing hormonal behavior?
it's hard to know, but we would assume so. So a ring neck is probably on the way, certainly, to becoming sexually mature right now. But remember, I said that hormone production doesn't cause behavior problems. So if a bird is being aggressive, it's probably to avoid doing something. There's a reason for it, in other words. So if a bird, oh gosh, how do I explain this? So let's say you're interacting with a bird, you're training a bird, okay?
Yeah.
He's not going to bite you just because he's hormonal. He's going to bite you because you are interacting with him in a way that caused that to happen. So, we've got to get past this idea of thinking that misbehavior will just clear up once hormone season is over. There is no hormone season. 12 months a year is hormone season. And so we've got to learn to live with our birds Ignore social media. I don't care how many people have their birds on their shoulders on social media. They're all talking to me at some point in the future, or they're giving their birds up to rescues. And so just try it and see, I solve this problem all the time. All the time. Yeah. But if the bird's being aggressive, I would look at the interaction, is he trying to avoid stepping up? Well, that's because he doesn't like stepping up for some reason. It's not because he's hormonal. So you got to figure out the why.
Okay. Okay. And we have a question about a gray that tends to be hormonal, and a gray that plucks under her wings and on her legs.
Mm-hmm.
Titrating her food to precisely maintain a healthy weight has been most effective at managing hormone levels because she's not laying eggs. They've been working on training her to accept handling her feet and putting on a flight harness. And they're working on getting the harness on quickly with minimal wing touching and no touching her back or tail area. Is this okay to do? So I guess it's
No, no, and no.
no, no, no. Okay, no and no.
So you should never limit a bird's food. I know that there is advice out there about weight management, and I know that people say that an abundance of food will make birds more hormonal. This is absolutely untrue. This came from the veterinary community, half of whom don't even live with birds. I'm sorry. So, if you give them an abundance of sunflower seeds, you're going to get hormonal behavior. If you give them an abundance of pellets and fruits and vegetables, you are not going to get hormonal behavior. And we should not control what our birds eat because we don't know what they should be eating. They know what they should be eating. So what we need to do is to provide a landscape of healthy food choices, provide a good pellet and don't limit it, have it available all the time. Feed a good chop mix in the morning as the first foraging meal of the day that has low metabolizable energy. Feed another foraging meal at the end of the day that has low metabolizable energy. That's why I choose Nutriberries and Ava cakes. I can get them out of a package and my birds love them, and it gives them something to forage on at the end of the day. And my birds are not hormonal. And if you feed your bird that way, your bird won't be hormonal either. So you should not limit food. Regarding harnesses, this is a very complicated topic because parrots hate harnesses. And it always scares the
Crap.
out of me when I hear that somebody's putting a harness on an African gray, because African grays are so sensitive. There's putting a harness on a bird, and there is harness training. Now, I have a client in Southern California that has harness trained 2 of his grays with my help. It has to be a completely force-free process, and it is advanced training. So if this bird is struggling at all while you are trying to put her harness on, then you should cease and desist. We've got this idea that birds want to go outside and go for walks. I don't know why we think that. I think it's because we just simply haven't thought it through. So let's think it through. Their whole lives, our parrots, our companion parrots, live in containers. From the moment they're hatched.
Mm.
So it's either a little plastic box or a brooder or a carrier or a cage or a room or a house. And so their entire lives, they have been habituated to being safe inside of some kind of container. And then we put a harness on them and think they just want to go outside and take a walk and meet the public. And, that would be a very strong no. So if you do want to harness train a bird, that's going to take about a year if it's an adult African gray, and if you're doing it right, and if you're doing it in a force-free way. And then you have to take another chunk of time and habituate the bird to actually enjoying going outdoors.
Okay.
And so, I think taking birds outside in harnesses is like flooding. Look up the term flooding if you don't know what that means. So, why not put them in a carrier and take them out for a picnic? Why not set up an outdoor aviary? Why not screen in your yard? There are so many, and a harness is a restraint device, right? Also, oh my God, let me say this. Some people think that they're going to put a harness on their bird and fly it outdoors. If you do that, I will come and get you and take that bird away from you. Never, 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 never do anything like that. So, not a harness fan here, but if you want me to help you harness train your bird, I will do it and we will get it done, and I will be nice the whole time also.
Okay. Okay. So question about giving flaxseed, chia, and hemp seeds. They give their green cheek nutriberries and avocakes with fresh veggies. Can they also give flax, chia, and hemp seeds?
100%, you betcha. Those are all high in essential fatty acids, specifically omega-3. The birds love them. I mix them in with my chop when I feed that because they love to forage through them.
Excellent. Okay. Oh, I had a question for you about. I'm thinking about Lori's who have a kind of a different kind of diet.
Sure.
How does how do they figure into all this conversation with hormones and stuff? Because they're more of a high, like their diet's a little different, right? With the nectar.
Yes, it is. I'm just going to say that that question should be answered by somebody who knows more about lorries than I do.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
They're just
not my strong suit. They're going to become hormonal in the same way that other birds are. So I suspect that with lorries, it may be more fats since they have evolved to need more carbohydrates, for an energy source. I suspect it may be fats that would cause them the problem, but I don't know.
okay. Um, let's see. Should bonded cockatiels, male and female, be kept in separate cages to stop egg laying?
Yes. In fact, there was a study done, and I'm so mad. Dr. Zhao and I have both read the paper, the study that was done, and we didn't save it, and neither one of us can find it now. I will be very happy. I'll give a free hour of consulting to anybody who can find me this paper on the web. It was a study done with egg-laying cockatiels. And it proved that if you separate the males and females for up to, no, it had to be at least 4 hours a day, it stopped egg laying. Now you have to control for other factors, of course, but no, they do need that separation for that reason. And just because, God, do you want to be stuck in a bathroom with your husband 24/7? Everybody needs space, birds and people too. They do a lot better if they each have their separate cages and they're in there when you leave the house and at night, and then the rest of the time they get to enjoy each other's company.
Okay, that's good. All right. And so someone said that we were talking about mirrors earlier and the camera. Does that mean that a cockatiel watching videos of cockatiels won't cause higher hormones? So if you have your
Oh,
screen time for birds, does that affect hormones?
no. No, that would just be good enrichment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, all right. What about a bird that seeks cavities in their cage? So they have a Moluccan cockatoo female, and she'll go to the corner of the cage and pull paper over her head and chew. So they just remove the paper from the cage. So,
Yeah, that's probably best not to let her have the paper. But you can only do so much. Like I said, you've got to give them things to chew up. And it's a struggle. It is, and it's tricky too. We all do the best we can because we can't control everything perfectly. We just have to control it well enough that our birds are comfortable, able to interact with enrichment, and not displaying problem behaviors that cause us issues.
Okay. And someone wants to know, is there a benefit to giving NutriCakes, I mean, Avicakes, only available at the vet? Oh, NutriCakes only available at the vet instead of Avicakes. And can you dehydrate frozen veggies for chop when fresh veggies are not available?
Yes, you can feed nutrient cakes rather than Ava cakes, and they actually would be preferable because they do have a lower, metabolizable energy content than the Ava cakes do. And the birds really like them. I think for Amazons, I would definitely feed them nutrient cakes if you can get them. I don't know why those are still labeled prescription because they've got the recovery cakes, for the sick birds. Yeah, those shouldn't be out on the shelf, but I wish Nutrien cakes were more widely available. And then I don't think you should dehydrate frozen mixed vegetables because the more you process a food, the lower nutritional value it has.
Mm.
So by freezing a vegetable, you've already processed it. But I'm here to tell you, I make chop out of frozen vegetables.
There you go.
So you can do that.
Okay. And we're just we're getting through all these questions. So okay. Let's see. Can you tell the difference between, they want to know the difference between Avicakes and Nutrien cakes. They adopted a lovebird and he was raised on a seed and Nutrien cake diet. So should they be switched him to Avicakes? I hope I'm saying this.
It's kind of, it's so funny. Nutrient cakes and seed, it's kind of missing the point, right? So the difference between Nutrien cakes and Ava cakes is that simply the Nutrien cakes, I think, have fewer calories. I haven't looked at a package of those in a long time. We used to have them at the vet clinic when I worked there, but I retired like, I don't know, 9 or 10 years ago now. And so I haven't actually had that package in my hand for a long time. But though when those came out, it was with a little bit of a PR thing about how they were better for foraging. Okay. And so they were promoted more as a foraging food than a food. It was a little hard to figure out, but they were lower in calorie and the birds like them just as much as I can tell. I used to feed them to my birds. I used to buy them instead of Ava cakes when I was working at the vet, but now I can only find Ava cakes.
Okay. Okay. Let's see if we have, okay, next question we have is it okay to feed an Amazon parrot soybeans and garbanzo beans along with other veggies?
Yes.
All right. And when you're saying, like, what kind of portion size does that matter? Does that factor in? Like, are you giving them like garbanzo beans and soy?
Well, I guess I assume that you're putting things like that in chop.
Okay. Not like a half a bowl full or. Okay.
No. Think about this. If, okay, I have African grays and one of them weighs a pound. If I give her one almond and she eats it, so I weigh 125 pounds. That would be like me eating 125 almonds a day. You've
Okay.
always got to keep portion size in mind. Now, that's not 100% accurate because birds have higher metabolisms than we do, but it's accurate enough to serve as a fair warning. And so you always want to serve everything in moderation all the time. Strive for variety. And birds are not going to overeat on things. Like, let's say, you don't have to be precise about this, is what I'm getting at. So in my bowl of chop mix, I might throw in half a can of garbanzo beans. So maybe that means there's too many garbanzo beans in one serving. It doesn't matter. My birds are not going to gorge on garbanzo beans. They're going to eat one or two of them and throw the rest on the floor, and the dog's going to eat them.
Okay. Okay. I mean, man, Amazons though, they're like foodies. Like if they.
Not necessarily.
No. Okay. Okay, someone wants to know how many nutriberries per day do a lesser sulfur crested cockatoo. Um, she eats low/no grain chop and tops. So how many nutriberries for a lesser sulfur crested cockatoo that's eating chop and tops
Maybe 4 a day.
for a day? Okay. Okay. Let's see. Let's see if we have one more. Um, Okay, someone says Tops pellets are 2,700 kcal and they feed chop. How else can they make sure they keep from excessive metabolizable calories?
So Tops pellets are 3,800 kilocalories per kilogram.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Rowdy
That was the
Bush is
case then what was
2,700. Rowdy Bush is 2,700 kilocalories per kilogram.
so how would they what advice would you have to make sure that they keep the excessive metabolizable calories in check?
Well, if they are eating tops, get off the tops for starters. Feed, what species bird is it?
I am not sure. Let's see if they can give us that. Yeah.
Because the pellet you choose makes a lot of difference. So for the little birds, budgies, cockatiels, I'm going to feed Rowdy Bush. I don't know what the calcium content of Lafeber is. That would be a close second. I would not feed those birds Harrison's or Tops or any of the other pellet brands. You've got to be really careful with those little birds if you want them to survive for decades. And if it's a cockatoo, I would feed either Harrison's, Lefebvre, or Rowdy Bush, with Rowdy Bush being the most preferable. If it was an Amazon, I'd feed either Harrison's Adult Lifetime or Rowdy Bush or Lefebvre. If it was an African gray, I would feed it Harrison's High Potency. If it's a large macaw, I would feed it Harrison's High Potency.
Okay. Let's see. And just okay, so we got through a lot of questions. I just had like two rapid fire questions for you.
Sure.
One, so just trying to think of like so sunshine in your bird that's hormonal. I mean, it's good to take your bird outside to get some UV light. What's your thoughts on does that affect it anyway? Should you give them more sunshine, less sunshine, same amount of sunshine they usually get? What's your
So sunshine doesn't have anything to do with hormone production, but it is important for the manufacture of vitamin D3 so that your bird can ingest enough vitamin D3. And parrots are biophilic. That means they naturally gravitate towards the outdoor world. And so getting them outside when, as long as they're not afraid, you just have to make sure that you kind of teach them to enjoy that experience. And then there's nothing better. Yeah, they should absolutely have that.
okay? And then what about showers, water, bathing? Is that
Showers, water, bathing. We should never force a bird to shower. We've got this idea in our society that we've got to shower our birds to keep them clean, which is kind of silly because that's why birds preen. They keep their own feathers clean. So in reality, bathing is more of an enrichment activity. If you watch birds bathing, they never look depressed. They're having a very, very good time interacting with that water. So we should provide lots of different bathing opportunities. I like dog bowls for bathing. For birds who bathe in their water dish, just start to provide a dog bowl full of water somewhere and put it there every day because your bird's got to get used to it. And, just like your shower is in your bathroom every day, the bowl of water should be in the bird's environment every day. So if it feels like taking a shower or a bath, you can. For birds who really do like to come in the shower with you, that's awesome. That's just fine. But don't let your African gray stay in there after you leave the bathroom.
why is that?
Because African grays like to hang
Oh,
out in bathrooms. That's their like, I think it's a humidity thing because grays in the wild, they tend to roost and breed in trees that hang out over water.
oh,
It's
okay.
the only
That's
thing I
interesting.
can think of. But They always, African greys always want to live in your bathroom and take it over eventually.
I was thinking maybe the acoustics too, if they like to,
See?
the
Denise
acoustics as well.
knows that.
Acoustics, right?
Mhm. Mm,
Oh, that's, yeah, no. No,
no,
my budgie loves getting wet on lettuce leaves. That's like his jam.
yeah, leaf bathing. That's
Yeah,
another
loves that.
great way to provide bathing for other birds.
And he nibbles on it. He just loves
Mhm,
wet lettuce leaves.
mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's so that's not gonna, is that gonna affect hormones at all? Like if
No,
you're,
no,
okay,
bathing in water do not affect hormone production, except, remember what I said, if you have a bird like budgies, cockatiels, sulfur-crested cockatoos that originated from very arid places in the world, you may find that when it rains or gets more humid, that may affect them. Yeah, but not the rest of the species.
okay, all right. That was amazing. We are marching into March with this hormone, the theme here. Just gonna, so next Friday we're gonna be on with Dr. Stephanie Lamb, and she's gonna do the case studies and medical issues that are related to parrot hormones. So that should be interesting. She'll
Yeah.
have some slide presentation for us on that. Pamela, thank you. I just, you always, I love how you just you kind of do some myth busting, and you tell it from the heart. So I think we all appreciate that. You have
No,
a great take on this, and appreciate it. So,
thank
and
you.
yeah, everyone's learned a lot today. So there we go. I hope everyone, yeah, see, a great hour of learning. I think that is a good summary right there. A great hour of learning. Thank you so much for your time for that. And I just want to wish everyone a wonderful weekend. All the best, you and your flock. Until next time, we'll see you again, Pamela. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.